All right, everybody. My name is Chris, the Batman Statue Collector, and I'm so glad that you joined us today. Welcome to Brotherhood of the Bat Collectibles. And I have a very special interview today for the very first time on the channel. I'm so glad to have him on. I first discovered him through Jim Mint Collectibles, of course. But this is Gary from Very Gary Comics. Welcome.
What's going on? I'm excited about this. I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Well, I had you on because I know you know a lot about comic books, and I am a statue collector, and I know that you are as well, but I know that you are a big comic book guy, and I have always collected comics since I was a kid, but it just kind of novelty. It was just kind of hit and miss with the books that I had over the years. But within the last year or so, I finally discovered CGC. And I wanted to show you some books that I have. This is one of the first ones that I came across. This is
there you go.
The Batman Who Laughs 9.8.
That's his first. That's his first solo miniseries right there.
That's awesome. And this is Jock right here. And then because I love that cover so much, I had to get the signed copy.
Oh, nice.
Well, so I have that one right there. And then this is one of my prized possessions right here. This is my Killing Joke, signed by Brian Boland.
That's nice. Signed by Boland. He doesn't go to too many shows,
so I'm really happy about that one. And last but not least, this is probably my favorite one. This is my Jim Lee cover right here from Batman Hush, signed by the inker and the illustrator, and the colorist. So that was really awesome to have that. So I first started getting into books, these CGCs, because I really liked the casing of them. I like the visual and the idea of, okay, well, I can make this as part of my display. It'd be really cool to display some of these books maybe behind some of the statues. A lot of people do that with art, but there's just so many Batman covers that are iconic to me that I absolutely love. And I thought, man, this would be really cool to collect these. But since I started collecting them, and I'm just kind of I'm very new at this, I wanted to know more. And so I wanted to see if you would come on and maybe pick your brain a little bit. I've got 10 questions that I wanted to ask you, and hopefully we can get through all 10 and learn a little bit more about CGC. But before we do that, tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Well, right here on YouTube, you can find me at Very Gary Comics. Pretty easy there. And on Instagram, I am Very Gary _comics. So little bit of a difference. And that's really it. I mean, I'm on Facebook, but it's my least favorite format.
All right. So definitely after this, make sure you subscribe. I'll put his link down in the show notes. That way you can make sure you give him a sub and give him a follow over on Instagram. So anyway, let's go with the questions. Okay.
I'm ready. Do I get to pass if I don't like a question?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I won't make them too tough. I hope.
All right.
All right. So question number one is this. Tell us what CGC is and why people may want to collect them.
All right. So CGC is a third-party grading company. There's multiple companies out there, multiple grading companies. CBCS is another one, and there's PGX, a couple others. You want to stick to the main two, CGC, CBCS. I always stick to CGC because I've learned that usually if you have a book graded by CGC and CBCS, the CGC book will get you almost 10 to 20% more back in value. So you kind of want to stick with CGC if you're looking to flip books. Personally, I like their label more as well to display because I do have a ton of them on display. To collect them, there's a million different reasons why. I can only talk about me. So the reason I collect the CGC books and get my books graded is, number one, it gives them a definitive value. When you look at a raw comic book, especially if you're a vendor or you're looking to buy a book from a vendor and it's raw, and when I say raw, I mean ungraded, you're almost looking... It's almost up to opinion and discretion on what the condition of this book is. Is it a very good plus, a very good minus? And sometimes that little difference is hundreds of dollars. So if you can get a book graded by CGC as a third-party grading company, it almost gives it a definitive grade, which gives it a definitive value. It's kind of difficult to negotiate, buying and selling when it has a set value. So those are the big reasons for me why I get them graded, and they look great displayed. Just like you were saying before, they look awesome.
Absolutely. So you mentioned CGC as kind of being the top dog. How did it become that way? Like, how did it become so universally accepted as like kind of the king?
I think they're the oldest. I think they've been around the longest, and they have something. And CBCS just recently put this out, but they do have what's the word? It's not a census, so which is very important. The CGC census is very important because it tells you how many books have been graded. Or we'll just say Detective Comics 880. You know that jock cover, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You can go, the Joker jock cover. You can go on CGC's website. Look up Detective Comics 880, and you can see how many were graded, in which grade, how many of them were signed, and what those graded at. So that census kind of determines value. And I'm going to use one book as a really good example of why this is important, very important. Amazing Spider-Man 301. Amazing Spider-Man 300. You remember that cover? It's the orange, iconic McFarlane cover.
I have that one, yeah.
Okay, great book. Extremely hard to find in a 9.8. It's upwards of over $2,000 right now. It's the first appearance of Venom. Okay.
Wow.
Amazing Spider-Man 301. It's literally the same cover, except it's white. And Spider-Man, instead of being in the black suit, he's in his regular blue and red. Okay. Well, people realize that on the CGC census there's a very, very, very small amount of 9.8s, which is pretty much the best grade you can get. So that book, which is not a key issue, just a classic McFarlane cover, that book in a 9.8 retails for over $1,000 based on the census because there's so few out there. Wow. A 9.6 drops to like $150, maybe 200. So that census is really important. I think that really helps CGC out of the gate. And plus, they've been around forever. They're the most trusted grading company out there. In my opinion, of course, it is an opinion. But for me, it's CGC all the way.
That's awesome. Well, so if people are just joining us and they're new to CGC, you mentioned a 9.8. 10 is called Gem Mint, right? I mean, those are very, very rare. But 9.8 seems to be one of the most popular gradings, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's pretty much the highest grade you can get on a book. 9.9s and 10s do exist. They are out there. You can absolutely get them. But the 9.8 is more realistic. 10s, I mean, you need perfect staples, tight staples. You need perfect corners. Very, very, very difficult to get on a regular comic book. Now, did you happen to read or have Batman Damned?
Of course.
Okay. That book, if you remember, not only was it a square bound book, but it was a hard cardstock cover, front, back, everything. There's a lot of 9.9s and 10s out there. It's a harder cover. It's easier to get a high grade. It's easier to find them. As long as you didn't open that book and crease that thing, you're going to end up more likely than not 9.6 plus, 9.8 plus.
That's cool. I have that book. I have that first print, so I know it's probably a little bit more rare now. With the band, what they did with the band with the black label. So that was crazy. But all right, well, great answer on that. Let's move on to number 2. So what's the process like submitting CGC books for grading?
All right, so there's two ways to do it. Unfortunately, with the world we live in right now, there's no conventions. But if you were to go to a convention, CGC 9 times out of 10, if you're going to a relevant convention, CGC is going to be there. It's very easy to submit books there. You can make a free account right then and there. They have the last time I was at a show, which however long that was, they do have tablets set up. You can type in there, make a free account, and you can submit right there from the show. That is the easiest way to submit to CGC. If you want to mail into CGC, I'm pretty sure you need a paid account, which lasts a year. It's an annual subscription. And there's an online form. It looks very difficult and it's very intimidating when you start filling it out. And I used to have a video. I ended up taking it down. A video actually showing the process to filling out the CGC form. I should probably put one back out there. But it's a lot easier than it seems. But there's an online form.
So are there any services that like if like let's say like I don't want to even touch that, like I don't want to bother with it. Are there any online services or people that will do that for you?
Yeah. So a lot of LCSs, local comic shops, will submit books for you to CGC because most local comic shops have CGC accounts. I mean, in my opinion, a relevant comic shop better have a CGC account and a CBCS account for all that. You need it. So I'll talk about my local comic shop, Alternative in Hyde Park, New York. They are more than willing to submit books for you to CGC. All you do is just pay everything. You pay the fees, the subscription, not the subscription fee, I'm sorry, the submission fee. You pay the shipping, the insurance, and the shipping back. You just cover all the fees, and they'd be happy to submit the book for you.
That's awesome. So if we are doing it ourselves, I know there's a lot of process of like, putting the book between cardboard and taping it a certain way. Is that process pretty complex, or is there a certain way you have to do it?
Well, funny you should bring that up, because I do have a video out there on that. The actual process of packing your books to CGC, it's the way I do it. You ask 10 different people, you may get 10 different answers. But for me, I have that video up there. What I do is I put books front to front, but on the opposite side, so both covers are rubbing instead of front to back. I'm only stacking like 8 at a time. And what I do is I put backing board, like comic boards, on each side of the stack of books. I tape them using tabs and everything. And then I put that in a Gemini mailer. A Gemini mailer is basically the best way to mail comic books. And then I put that usually I wrap that in bubble wrap, and I put that in, I'm in New York, CGC is in Florida, so I use a flat rate box from Postal Service.
That's awesome. Very, very helpful information there. I really appreciate that.
But that video is up, and that's a really good video, in my opinion. But again, you ask 10 different people how they pack their books, you may get 10 different answers.
So again, check out his YouTube channel for that video. I'll put
selfless plug.
Yeah. All right. So question number 3 is, what does press and clean mean, and is it necessary?
All right. This I can get crazy detailed with this. I'll keep it as simple as possible. Cleaning and pressing is a process that can take out a lot of the flaws in a comic book. So pressing it will take out any indents, folds, bends, finger bends, like when you're reading a book. Creases, anything that doesn't break a color, waviness. And what it does is it essentially flattens out the book and removes all those flaws. Now, it can't fix tears and rips and color breaking bends, spine ticks with the color break. Can't do anything about that, but still you want your books, maybe not moderns off the racks, but you want your books cleaned and pressed. The cleaning is just that, a dry cleaning process that removes the dirt on the covers. I buy a lot of comic collections, and a lot of stuff, 60s and 70s, people don't have that stuff bagged and boarded and never did. So it collected a lot of dirt, and they sat on each other. Nobody stacked them, nobody stacked them up vertical the right way. They're always in boxes on top of one another. And what happens is, they rub on each other, picks up dirt, grime. You can get all that off. But what that also does is it kind of makes indents on one another. The same thing goes for if you put your books in a long box or a short box the right way, but it's not a tightly packed box. The books lean on each other a little bit, almost at an angle. They can put indents in each other. Those little indents, you can press those out. So you definitely want your books cleaned and pressed. CGC does offer that through CCS, which you can actually fill out the form while you're submitting your books to CGC and do it all at once. Turnaround time is like months. But if you don't know a private presser, that's probably the way to go. Again, modern books off the rack and books like Batman Damned and 3 Jokers, which just came out, those harder cardstocks, you don't need to usually. But definitely when you're looking at older books and stuff that's been sitting in long boxes and short boxes for a long time.
So if you do go through a private presser, I would assume you have to send it to them. They send it back, and then you have to send it to CGC.
A lot of pressers will send to CGC for you. So okay. I do a lot of my own cleaning and pressing, but when I get overwhelmed, I do have people that I send books out to do my cleaning and pressing for me. When that happens is I'll fill out the CGC form, put it in there, right to the presser. He does his magic, and he sends it down to Florida for me. The submission form is already in there, because when you do submit to CGC, they want a printed invoice. So I say form, it's really the invoice. The invoice goes in there with the books to the presser. He does his thing, off to CGC, no problem. I've never, knock on wood, maybe I just have great pressers, never had a problem.
So either way you go, it seems like it's pretty convenient.
Yeah, people make it really convenient for you because it's not a simple process. It is when you do it a lot. Like right now, I think I have 150 books at CGC. Wow. It's easy, with like with anything, practice. So, but if there should be, you should be able to find avenues to get your books to CGC cleaned, pressed, and everything without you having to do much of anything.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, thank you. Question number 4. What happens if something happens to your books when getting graded? Are they insured?
Okay. This is a really difficult question because there's all different things, and hopefully someday I can get an exact answer. But when you submit your books to CGC and fill out the submission form, you do have they do require you to put the value on there. And tiers have different values, which also cost you more or less because CGC also has insurance that they have to pay. So if something happens to CGC, I have had, knock on wood, I've never had any issues, but I know that CGC has an excellent customer service base. And if something happens to your book, I've heard people, they've taken care of people. Now, if it happens in the mail, that's not their fault.
Yeah.
If it happens at CGC, they will make it right, and they will make sure that everything's done well.
That makes sense. It's still peace of mind that way. I mean, it's still peace of mind. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
I've never been worried about my books there. These are professionals. They do this all the time. They literally have a group of people that take the books in and unbox them. Like, that's their job. So they're good at it because they know that they could be opening up $1 million comic book, right? You have no idea. And even if it's a $5 comic book, that book might be worth $1 million to you personally or emotionally. Every book usually has a story behind it, right? So that may be something you got from your grandfather or your dad or a best friend. You know, there might be a reason behind it. Maybe you're grading it not necessarily because you care about the grade, but you want it encapsulated and protected. So these people do a really good job making sure that these books are handled professionally and carefully.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. Again, peace of mind. I mean, that's very helpful for a new collector. Question number 5 is, what is the difference in label colors?
Okay, there's a lot of different colored labels. First things first, it's the blue universal label. There's your gold. The gold label, yellow label, that's a signature series, a witnessed signature series. So CGC has to witness the signature in order to get that gold label. The blue label is just your universal. Purple label is restored, which means there was a color touch or glue added to it. Green label means there's like a marking on it, or an error. So like green, I've seen green labels with like an unwitnessed signature or an unwitnessed sketch cover that you submitted. It's going to come back with the grade, but it's also going to come back with that green label. But
the green label, I would assume, is a lot lower in value, right?
Tremendous. The same with the purple.
Yeah.
And there's other too, but those are the big ones. And then they mix and match them. So like you can get a restored book with a purple or purple restored label with a gold label too. So it'll be 2 colors. Let's say you got a book signed by Stan Lee. It was witnessed. You sent it out. You had no idea there was a color touch on it and it was restored, or there was glue on the spine or a piece added. Well, they'll note it on the label. The majority of the label will be gold, yellow, but there'll be a fine line on the top that'll say restored in purple right on top.
That's crazy. So obviously the ones tend to be probably more value are the blue and gold. I know some people say, well, you're damaging the book by putting a signature on it. Like it's, degrading the cover. So are the blue ones deemed higher quality or better value in general, or does the signatures, I mean, I know like I paid pretty good money for these signatures that I got. Where are we at with that?
So usually signatures will garner a little bit more money because it took more money to invest into that book, right? Somebody paid your book, right? Somebody paid to have Jim Lee sign that book. And then CGC also charges a little bit extra for signature series. So now there's a little bit more fees, it kind of adds up.
Yep.
So it costs a lot of money. Me personally, the only books I ever get signed are modern books. I do not get my silver and bronze signed. So with modern stuff, it does get a little bit, it can get you a little bit more money, but also costs a little bit, so it's all relative.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's awesome. I always wondered kind of what the more valued version is. So that's good to hear. That's awesome. Let's see. Question number 6. If I want a signed book submitted to CGC, what is that process like? We just talked about that. I know a lot of people, and I was one of those people that thought, so like, a couple years ago, we had a con in Kansas City called Planet Comic-Con. It's our biggest con. And we had an evening with Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder and Jonathan Clapton. It was like a 3-hour deal. We got to, hear all these stories, and then they signed, I think they did like 8 books for us. And it was just amazing. But I can't get those sent in. I mean, I guess I could, but they're not going to get that golden label because no one was there to verify it.
Well, let's talk about this.
Okay.
Right now, CGC, because the conventions aren't existent right now, and even if they were, I don't know if CGC would be going to them. They're doing a lot of in-house signings. So they're having artists and writers come into CGC. They're setting dates and deadlines, and you can mail them and submit your books for signatures. Three Jokers is a big one for me personally. Fabic, Johns, Anderson, triple signed. I think they need those books by the middle of December, and I would imagine they're probably showing up to sign after the new year. But you can get those books in. It's a premium. You're paying more, but those books will come back graded. They will come back with gold labels. Now, in your situation, which is very, very common, where you've gotten books signed by artists and writers, no CGC witness, or maybe at the time you didn't care. You just wanted the signature. And now you're starting to collect slabs and you're like, I kind of wish. CBCS does verified signatures, unwitnessed verified signatures. They use a computer program to verify the signature. So I actually have one. So what you used to be able to do is submit to CBCS. It costs you $25 a signature, so it gets pricey. They would grade the book, verify the signature, and you would get it back with a red label, and that red label meant verified signature. It wasn't witnessed, but it was verified. Now, they've changed everything with their system. They use a gold label now for a verified witness. I have one right here.
Okay. That's so neat that they do this.
Down goes that book. All right. So here's...
Oh, yeah.
I did not get this signed myself. It's a 9.6, and it says up top, verified signature, Mike Barron. I don't know if you can see that on the top.
Let me blow you up here a little bit there. There we go.
Oh, there you go. So you can kind of see it up top. So that's what CBCS does now, because that red label is yucky. Nobody liked it. So CGC won't be doing that. And I don't think they ever will. And the reason they don't want to do it is because, God forbid, you let a signature through that wasn't a real signature and you verified it and you gave it that gold label, it almost discredits you. Yeah. So I know they won't be doing that. But CBCS is like, hey, if it's verified through this program that they use, it's gold label.
Yeah. Now I wish that, in that event, they would have had somebody to verify, because, there were so many great signatures. I had all the Court of Owls stuff autographed. Yeah. That was just, awesome. I even had my absolute signed by them. So it was just,
that's cool.
It's still, even if it's not submitted, it's still neat to have those, it's still.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, funny. The first book I ever submitted to CGC was a Batman #1 from the New 52. I got it triple signed at New York Comic Con, witnessed by all three, and it came back a 9.8. It's still in my personal collection, and that's going to stay with me forever.
Yeah, that's priceless right there. That's awesome. Yeah. So cool. That's awesome. Okay. Let's see. Number 7. This is a good question. Is it worth getting modern books graded, or is it just primarily for older books? All the stuff that I have is new stuff.
Yep. It is 100% worth getting modern books graded. Now, you don't want just a random modern book, right? There are big keys. I'm going to give you a real good example. All right. I don't know if you're reading Thor right now.
I'm not.
Okay. Right now, Thor, Donny Cates, Venom, that's the hottest thing in the world. Donny Cates is the writer. He came out with a new character, Black Winter. He came out, I think his first full appearance or his first cameo was Thor #5. All right. Thor #5 in a 9.8 is $200 right now.
Wow.
Right now. As of the recording of this video, it's a $200 book. That book is $3.99 off the rack and about $20 to get it graded, plus all the other stuff. So you're into that book for maybe $35, $40 max, and it's a $200 book. If you bought 5 of those off the rack in great condition, you spent $20. You got everything submitted to CGC, and they all came back 9.8. You just made yourself $1,000. You just brought $1,000 back. So it's absolutely worth getting modern books graded. You just have to be careful. You don't want just a random book graded unless it's something personal, sentimental, or you love the cover and you want it protected. But yeah, modern books, absolutely.
Like #1s. I mean, like, a number
there you
one
go.
probably, or just, there's, I mean, I think people know when there's going to be an iconic cover. I mean, you even look at the 3 Jokers, like that's an iconic cover. I already am getting the Jason Fabic, the first one with the crowbar. I have at CGC 9.8 that I'm getting from Comic Sketch Art, I believe is who I went through.
That's who he's affiliated with.
And so I'm getting that piece, but I'm actually hoping to do a whole wall. I've actually have ordered all 15, and I want to get them all 9.8 and do a big giant wall.
You know what's funny? I ordered 125 of each book. I have
You're
25
kidding.
of each cover of all three book 1, 2, and 3, all 5 covers, 25 of each coming for the same reason. But I'm also getting all the 1 in 25 variants and the 1 in 100 variants specifically for that, because I want a display. Every color. It's my favorite artist. It's my favorite writer. It's my favorite characters. It's the perfect book for me. I want them all in a 9.8 or better. And don't be surprised if you see 9 9s and 10s of that book popping out.
Oh my God. That's crazy. Well, before I saw his covers come out, my plan was to do just a Joker wall of just iconic Joker covers over the years, like Neil Adams or with the card.
Yeah.
And that was my goal. But once I saw those covers, and all of them were like, they're just perfect in my eyes. Like they're just like, they tell the entire arc of Joker in these covers. I'm like, that has to be a display. And so that's so cool to hear you're going to do that too.
Oh, I'm doing the same thing. I'm probably going to I'm looking at the wall. I have a big 16 by 20 of Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, and Mariano Rivera. And I think that wall, those guys may have to get moved, and that's going to be like the Joker wall.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's awesome. I can't wait to see it. You have to make sure you show us.
Yeah, eventually. So the last book, I believe, comes out in October, and then turnaround times, with CGC. But I told you, I'm sending out a bunch of those books to get signed. So I'm going to send out 2 of each of the 1 in 25 variants, and then 1 of each of the 1 in 100 variants. So there's 3 books total, right? Book 1, 2, and 3, 5 covers for each book, and then 2 variants, two incentive variants for each one.
That's so awesome.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's awesome, though. That's so cool. Let's see. Question number 8. Are there any set rules universally with grading companies? So you mentioned 2 big companies. Like, do they follow the same general practices? Obviously, you mentioned a big one about the signature series a little bit ago. But in general, are they pretty consistent?
I hope so. You're always so. A video I'm probably going to end up doing. Somebody can steal my idea if you're out there. It's fine. And I'm sure this has happened before. So this may not be my idea, but eventually, when I'm not backed up like crazy, I want to take 3 books, get them cleaned, get them pressed, get them submitted to CBCS, let them come back, see the grades, crack them open, send them out to CGC, compare the grades between the 2. So to answer your question, I hope so, but usually no. There's usually a little bit of discrepancy in the grades, and grading is almost a matter of opinion, right? Like if you're looking at a book, and so if you got a guy there having a bad day, I don't know, maybe you start slipping 20s in there.
That's what I was wondering. I mean, it seems pretty subjective, really, depending on who's doing the book. I mean, it's just like anything else. So, to me, it makes more sense to maybe stick with one company, one or the other, just because you know what you're going to kind of get, I guess. Yeah. But all right, that's good to know. That's good to know. Let's see. Question number 9. What's the best place to buy CGCs? Is eBay a good or bad option?
I'll tell you. I don't do much on eBay. Just because I just don't do much on eBay. The Instagram comic community is outstanding. I have bought, I have sold, I have traded, I have wheeled and dealed on Instagram, and I have done very well. I've never been taken advantage of. I've never been screwed over. I have never lost money or deals or anything like that. I do probably 80% of my business through Instagram. The other 20% is in person or friends, and we're trading amongst each other. But eBay, I rarely use to sell. Once in a blue, I'll buy on eBay. And I will buy slabs, or sometimes if I see a really good book. I don't like buying raw books on eBay, I'll be honest with you. People don't know how to ship books. Yeah. I have horror stories of shipping raw books. Slabs, it's a little bit different. Usually the slabs are shipped well. Raw books, I've seen them in envelopes way too many times without padding and covers. I bought a Fantastic Four Annual 6. That's like one of my favorite spec books out there. It's the first appearance of Annihilus, the first appearance of Franklin Richards. It's a square bound annual issue. I bought one on eBay. This is my horror story. Thank God though, the book came okay, but it was literally put in an envelope with no bag, no board, and shoved in the mail.
Oof.
It wasn't folded and shoved in my mailbox. Thank God it was actually dropped off at the doorstep. But that's why I don't buy raw books on eBay. Slabs, I feel a little bit more confident that they're going to take care of them. Especially because a raw book, you could be buying a raw book off of grandma who found them in the attic. The slabs, that means that person knows what they're doing. They've submitted books or they've purchased slab. They know what they're doing. So I feel a little bit safer buying slabs on eBay than raw stuff.
So if somebody is looking for a specific slab, can they hit you up on Instagram? And you can
Yeah, I get that all the time. I'm just super busy and I feel bad, so I don't always get back to people. But yeah, and what you could always do is if you start following and interacting a lot with the Instagram community, eventually you just start, looking for, in search of, and you post it. And you could post, look through the hashtags too. There's a lot of good people out there who sell books through Instagram. Or even so, there's a lot more people who know somewhere to get that book. Yeah.
So just like hashtags CGC, is that kind of the best one to look up? Okay. Yep. That's awesome. All right. Question number 10, our last question here. What are some of the best resources to look up current values for CGC books?
So there's eBay last sales, right? Because again, we're talking slabs. But that's another thing with raw stuff on eBay. I mean, it's up to discretion. You're grading a book raw. See, that's another reason I don't like buying raw stuff. Anyway, off tangent. There's a website called GPA Analysis, which is a subscription-based website that shows you sales on eBay of CGC graded books. Now, there's multiple sites just like that. I just happen to use GPA because I'm comfortable with them. I believe there's 2 or 3 others that are pretty good, and most of them are free. And I wish I could answer this better, but I only use GPA. There's one of the free ones, I believe, uses all the sales from like multiple auction houses. So eBay, Heritage Auction, Comic Link or My Comic Link, and they put them all together and they'll tell you whether it's a CBCS book, a CGC book, what color the pages were, white, off-white, cream, all that stuff. And last sale, highest sale, high for the year, 90-day average, 12-month average. There's a lot of like analytics that you can look into the books. And this is why, again, to go all the way back to question number 1 about grading your books and everything is these are determined values based on a market that you can see in real time. So you can see a book trending up. You could see a book trending down. You could see a book, you could do that with the graded books. You can't really do that with raw stuff so much because, again, conditions, it's hard to tell. But when you get a book slabbed, when you get a book graded, it now has that determined grade, that determined value, and you can watch the market.
That's awesome. Well, we have covered 10 questions. Actually, I asked more than 10, of course. I could probably ask you 20 more.
That's all right.
But it's amazing that, this particular way of collecting, you could simply have it as art on your wall, or you can do it for an investment for your family down the road. It's really neat that you can kind of do it both ways. I guess, the statue collecting community kind of does the same thing. Some people just do it for the art, and some people, they collect because they want to resell and, make a profit if they can. And I would assume, just like statue collecting, there's an ebb and flow to this hobby as well, correct?
100%. The market dictates everything. And with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, the TV shows, speculation, it is a market. There's highs, there's lows, there's peaks, there's valleys. It's you have to stay up on it. It's a lot. And and what I say on my channel all the time is the beautiful thing about this hobby is the amount of avenues you can take, whether you do collect statues, toys, raw books, slabbed books, original art, or omnibus, or just your weekly books, and you're just reading them and you're just shoving them in a box. There's so many different ways to collect and enjoy this hobby. And look at just us, right?
Yep.
I have statues and books. You're getting more into book because you have a ton of statues. It's great. It's great to put the books with the statues, I gotta say.
I agree. I just absolutely love it. Again, I really like the art behind statues too, but there's just something to me about these iconic covers that inspired these statues in the first place. That really speaks to me a lot. I think a lot of times art was inspired by the books. And so I just always have that connection to these books. And I really like a lot of the old covers, but I really, the newer covers is really what speaks to me, just because I'm such a fan of those artists right now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I love the older guys, of course, but some of these new guys are just so talented.
Yeah, I mean, I think of like Bermejo and like we talked about
Oh
Finn
yeah.
or Fabok. They're just all so amazing, and I'm just so excited to see what they come up with in the future because I know it's only going to get better. Of course,
Yeah.
Ulo we mentioned. But anyway, I cannot thank you enough for answering all these questions. I feel so much more enlightened about CGCs. Again, I'm very new, and so I just there's so many questions that I feel like I'm sure a lot of people out there might have that might be just getting into this hobby. So again, I can't thank you enough. Tell everybody again where they can find you on social media.
Instagram, you can find me at @verygary_comics, and here on YouTube, you can find me just at @verygarycomics.
All right. So what I would like to do maybe in the future is maybe have you come back on or me come on your show and talk about statues. How's that sound?
Yeah, there you go.
That'd
We
be
could
awesome.
definitely do that.
That'd be awesome. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. Also, make sure you visit his channel as well, Very Gary Comics. And please subscribe to both of our channels if you haven't done so. I would really appreciate it. And just thank you guys for spending a little bit of time learning a little bit about CGCs today. See you guys in the back cave. See you guys. Bye.